So in today's video, we'll cover order of operations. We'll talk about PEMDAS. So as you see here, parentheses is the way that we start our acronym of PEMDAS. And you can see they put M and D at the same level, which is basically something you can do. It doesn't necessarily matter which way we do these, but as we see, we're doing our multiplication division from left to right, and the same thing with our subtraction. So usually we write down PEMDAS so you can see it and kind of lock that in our brains. So parentheses and grouping symbols all go in this level. So the first thing that you'll always do is if there's any parentheses or other grouping symbols, which also would include a square root, is another kind of grouping symbol we could think of, or maybe even later on when you learn about like the cube root or the fourth root, all of those also count as grouping symbols, okay? And then after that, we look for exponents. So let's look at this first problem, number one here. And we can see there's no exponents as I scan through it, right? And I don't see any exponents either. So that means that now I can continue down to multiplication and division. And so when I do this, I end up seeing 7 plus 54. And then I have that divided by 3 times 2, which is 6. So we did the multiplication first, see? Now we'll move down to the division. And so before I add 7 with the 54, what I have to do is resolve this value on the right side, 54 divided by 6. So if you know 54 divided by 6 is 9, then you can realize that we're at the last step now. And see, we're done with all the multiplication and division, and we get to addition, subtraction, and 7 plus 9 in this case is going to give us 16, and we're done. So this is the way you want to evaluate expressions in this order. So we can try again another example. Let's try number 2. You can feel free to pause it and try on your own, or you can still copy along because it's going to be a while maybe before you get your independent practice. So we'll do maybe like 3 or 4 independent guided ones, and then you'll take over and do the independent practice. So let's start off by looking, is there a parenthesis, right? We see no parentheses here, so my brain automatically jumps to do the exponent, right? So this is 2 to the 5th. So we need to do up here, we can think about what 2 to the 5th means. And 2 to the 5th means 2 times 2 times 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5 of them. That's what it means, okay? And if you think about it, you can break this down more, right? Because this 2 times 2 is 4, right? And this 2 times 2 is 4, and then we get a 2, right? So think about it. What is 2 to the 5th equal to? Well, it's the same thing. If you have a calculator, you can do all these together, but you can see how 4 times 4 is 16, and 16 times 2 is 32. So either way, if you do it in your calculator, you get 32. And so we'll put right here 32. And then we have that divided by 4 plus 6. Now, you might interpret this more than one way, but we don't want to. We want to be sure that we do this the correct way. And so when we look at an expression like this, we have to go through, and like we said, we did the exponent. So now we have to do the multiplication, and we don't see any of that, and so we're going to do the division now. Okay, and the division is the 32 divided by 4 right here. So we'll have 17 minus, okay, 8, because 32 divided by 4 is 8. And then we have to add the 6. Now, because we're just adding and subtracting, we're going from left to right. And so you see that we made it all the way down to the bottom. So 17 minus 8 will give us, okay, so go ahead, pause the video, solve this problem. If you guys are stuck at this step, you have a problem, right? So pause this, make sure you look at the number line if you need to, okay? Draw a number line and don't let problems like this confuse you, because this would not be the step to get stuck at. Okay, I could forgive you maybe for being like, oh, what do I do first, right? But once we get to here, it's up to just counting, right? So think about it. If I'm at 17 and then take 8 steps this way, where am I going to be? And then I'm taking 6 steps back that way. So if I take 8 steps this way and then 6 steps back this way, isn't that like if I only took 2 steps to the left? So won't this give me 15? Okay, so use your intuition here as you guys are looking through the number line, but the idea of addition and subtraction is just counting. So, excuse the drumming outside. Okay, so now let's do another example. We have number 3 over here. This would be a great one for you to try on your own, especially if you've been exposed to something like this before. So, 24 minus 4 squared. So we'll write 24, but now minus 4 squared. We want to change that because we're going to do, again, PEMDAS. Means we start with the parentheses and then the exponents. So 4 squared means 4 times 4, and that's 16. And really try to fight the reflex that you might have to think that this is 8, okay? 4 times 4 is 16. Then we'll copy everything else just so we can talk about it. But as you get more experience, you won't really copy every single line. You'll probably do some of them in your head. Okay, now we should do the multiplication and the division. There's no division here, so we go to the multiplication. 24 minus 16 times 3, and that number's been coming up a lot this year. So we got negative 48 plus 15. Okay? I feel like if I do all the addition for you, then maybe that's too much. So you guys, I'll leave that problem for you guys to do, okay? You guys can solve it from there. But now let's do this one. Okay? We have to start in the parentheses, and finally we see parentheses in this example. So we will put that down first, and we're going to start inside of the parentheses. I'm going to copy everything else. Okay? We can do a couple of the calculations. Like for instance, 2 times 5, we could do that first because that's multiplication. Right? So on the bottom, we could do 10 right now. Okay? But on top, 7 minus 2 squared, we actually have to start inside the parentheses. So we started inside, right? We're here. But then we have to do the exponents because that's what's inside the parentheses. That's where we would start, right? So that's 7 minus 2 squared, and again, 2 squared is 4. So if we continue our math here, we have 7 minus 4 is 3, right? That's inside the parentheses again. So I'll keep the parentheses there if you like for now so you can see where they didn't go anywhere. And then on bottom, we have negative 14 plus 10, okay? And so I know it says to do the division before addition, and look at what we have now. We have the addition on top. So the way we actually want to do this is before we divide these numbers and break them down, we should simplify the top and simplify the bottom of these two fractions. So here we have 20, and when we get negative 4 plus 10, that'll give us, negative 14 plus 10 will give us negative 4. And this calculation you could get would be negative 5 again because we have negative 4 times 5 over negative 4 times 1. So if we cancel the 4s, you guys can see we get 5 over 1, which is just positive 5. Okay, so parentheses and exponents, they get more complicated, and that's why we have an order to do these so that we always get the same value and that our calculations agree. So I think this could be a good place for you to try 5 and 6 on your own, see what you get. We'll get those out of the way together also. But after this, we'll have to move on to the next concept. So, as we said before, you want to always begin with the order of operations, and we see the parentheses and the exponents. Because the parentheses on bottom, I could do those when we need to. So we'll go ahead and do the exponents that we have on top, which is 5 squared gives us 25. And then we have minus 3 to the 4th. So think about what that means, right? 3 to the 4th is not 12, okay? It's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, not plus 3, right? And so we know 3 times 3 is 9, right? And that's the same thing as 9 times 9. So 81 is 3 to the 4th. And that's one that you should be able to do in your head without reaching for a calculator and feeling not so confident about it. 2 to the 3rd is 8, right? Because that's just 2 times 2 times 2. So we get 8 minus 5 inside this parentheses. And we'll continue working inside the parentheses. 6 minus 2 is 36. And then we'll have to write divided by 9 on the inside here. Now that we have that, the problem is just a little bit of subtraction. So I'll do part of it, but I won't do the whole problem. I'll leave this for you guys to do some of it. Okay, 25 minus 81, you guys could do that on top. But on bottom, just to make sure that you're sure, 5 minus 8 should give us 3. And then we have a parentheses, and now we have 36 divided by 9, which should give us 4. So now, do your calculation. We have 12 on bottom. What do we get on top? Okay, we're going to be positive or negative. Okay, I'll leave that part for you guys to do. So now for 6, we have, again, our order of operations telling us to start on the inside with the parentheses, okay? Now, I could divide the 84 by 12 as long as I don't add it with anything else now, but if you guys are superstitious, we can leave that alone, okay? We'll leave the 84 by 12 because it said to do parentheses first, right? So if you have to follow everything it says, then let's start inside the parentheses, and the exponent says 7 squared, so that's 49. So we did what was inside the parentheses, but there's still something left in parentheses, so now I have to go simplify that again, right? So 84 divided by 12, and then you can see here 5 minus 49, what's that going to give us? minus 44. We'll keep that inside the parentheses. And then we got minus 72 divided by 6 times 2. Okay? So we're doing this, I'm taking a little bit along on purpose here because I want to make sure I cover every single step, but also some of these can go at the same time. For instance, 84 divided by 12, we can do that now as long as we don't combine it with anything else. So that gives us 7, right? And then plus a negative just means subtract, so that means subtract 44, okay? And then now once it's to take away 72, but then there's a division, right? So I have to do that, and then we also have the multiplication. So we could think of it as maybe if I did the multiplication first, we could think of it as 72 divided by 12, okay? And then now, as we resolve the rest of these terms, we have 7 minus 44, and then you could think to yourself, well, what's this going to be with 72 divided by 12? Okay, so you can work through and simplify that expression right there. Make sure you're counting in the right direction. Use a calculator if you need to, but at this point, I believe you guys should be able to try at least and make some mistakes on the rest of the Unit 0 order of operations, okay? Now for evaluating expressions, we're going to discuss this, and we've done a lot of these with the formulas when we've been using the Pythagorean theorem and circumference and speed. So it's basically just the idea of plugging in a number into a formula. We'll be practicing this more this week. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit of review of circles and stuff too, so we'll connect circles with the Pythagorean theorem. So for now, let's just learn the way this works. It's basically every time I have to plug in a number, so this is saying that A equals 2, B equals 4, and C equals 7. Okay, every time I plug in a number, I want to put a blank parentheses, basically. Okay, so for A, I'm going to turn that into a blank parentheses. For B, I'm going to turn that into a blank parentheses and copy the little c, and then I'll do plus c, and I could also put a blank parentheses here, okay? The parentheses kind of protect you from having the negative signs that you forget. Now what we'll do here is we'll have 3 times, again, notice the only thing I'm changing is the letters into a blank empty parentheses, okay? So now let's go put all the values where they go, and maybe color will help a little bit here. So for B, let's make that in blue. And then for C, we'll put that in green. Okay, so A is 2. So notice that we'll put 2 right here where A goes. Okay, but B is 4. So that's the number that goes here. That's the number that I'll have to square, right? We'll have to do 4 times 4, and that means 16, right? And then for the green number, we'll have to put in 7, which is right here. And then we follow our order of operations to evaluate this, right? So this is equal. Well, what do I start with? Okay, well, we said to start with the exponent, right? The thing in the parentheses. And inside of the parentheses, we don't have any values, any more calculations to do. So now we jump to the exponent, which is 2. And 4 to the power of 2 is 16. Okay, that means 4 times 4. So now you have to do 2 times 16 plus 7, which is 32 plus 7. So you get 39. And that's the end of this problem. That's really all you do. Okay, let's try this one. In this case, we only have one value to plug in. There's only one letter that's x. So we'll plug in 2 here and 2 there. Now, do I write this as 6? Do I do 3 times 2? Or do I do the exponent first, right? Check your understanding. What do you think we should do? What we have to do is the exponent first. And so 2 times 2 is 4. And now if we do the other multiplication, we have 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 4 is 12. And so this simplifies as 12 minus 8. And we can change that into 4. So again, to substitute in these values, it just takes a little bit of practice. Once you know what you're doing, you realize that we're just kind of changing numbers out for new ones. Let's do a couple more. This video is almost done right now. So in this example here, we're going to, as I said before, change the letters into an empty parentheses. And we can do here the x's in red, let's say, and then the y's in blue, just to keep track of them. Okay, the 2 should go over here for y. And then the 2 should go for y, so notice that's this spot. But then the x is -4, so we'll put that here. Now, notice by having the blank parentheses, this lets us keep track of this negative sign, and that's really useful, right? So as we put an equal sign, we'll continue by dealing with the exponents, right? So 2 squared is 4, right? So inside the exponents we have 4, and that means that we have to be stuck with -4 here. So this doesn't mean -2 times -2. So I want to talk about the difference between this, all right, which does mean -2 times -2, which gives me +4, and the difference between this, right? Sorry, with no negative inside, okay? In this case, this is telling me that I'm supposed to do -1 times whatever I get when I do 2 times 2, and that is -4, okay? So there's a big difference when a negative is outside of the parentheses. Hey, now we're supposed to deal with all of our multiplications. As we see, we have 3xy. So 3 times -4 makes -12, and then -12 times 2 makes -24. So we have minus -24. Okay, and that's one that might make you slip up, because we should know that this is -4 plus 24. Okay, and so that'll give us 20. Okay, let's try this one over here for the last one of the video. So as we look through this, we're going to plug in A in red and B in blue. So let's start off with a blank parentheses here and a blank parentheses here. And then on bottom, we can put the minus, and then we can go put our values with. Now, as I said, we should probably put the blank parentheses everywhere, and this is a great example of why we do that, okay? So now let's go put the numbers where they go. -3 is inside the red one. -3 is over here. And I guess if I want to follow my color scheme, then this probably would have been a blue parentheses too. So inside of the blue parentheses, right, B is equal to -5. So that means I have to put -5 inside the blue parentheses and also here. So -3 squared is -3 times -3. And that means I do get +9. The same thing with -5 times -5, that also gives me +25. But now on the bottom, I want you to notice that since there's nothing inside of the parentheses to do, I have to basically get rid of them and just do this. So this means -3 minus -5, okay? And that's really just equal to, we could do the top, 9 plus 25 gives us 34. And on the bottom, I hope you realize 2 negatives is a positive, right? Subtracting the negative means add. So we have 34 over 2, and that gives us 17. Okay, so I hope this video can help you guys review, especially if you're out of class today. Good luck using this to complete your homework. The homework pages I'll show you right now are to get done with 11 and 12, and then finish this order of operations. So finish page 7 and page 8 for homework. All right, good luck working on